When conditions in a business segment change, when they're in transition, when one's business practices, processes, even relationships, the way things have always been done, stop working, it's important for the folks in the business to evaluate all of those processes and practices with a view to evolving and adapting to the new direction of the business. Hi, George Sanders here, President, Goldcliff Resource Corporation. I'm glad you could join us for another video. In our last couple of videos, we presented observations and discussions about the state of the junior resource market. Today, and in some follow-up videos, we'd like to focus back specifically on Goldcliff activity. It's been a little while since our last news release, and sometimes shareholders and those following the company can get a little impatient when they don't see a news release every 2 or 3 weeks. And I think mistakenly, they arrive at the conclusion that there's nothing going on in the company. That couldn't be farther from the truth. With most disclosures, most news releases talking about events, be they financing, commencement of a work program, updates of a work program, acquisitions, corporate deals, and the like, by the time those news releases are issued, the company has usually been working on those things for multiple weeks, sometimes several months. Discussions, negotiations, planning, and then preparation. And that's certainly the case at Goldcliff, and I'd like to take a few minutes to update you on what our thinking and our planning and our discussions have been about. So the first thing I'll start with is financing. Most junior resource companies don't have an income source, and so they derive their funds for their budgets usually by the sale of new shares from the Treasury to existing or often to new shareholders. We don't think that process is going away, but we're shifting our focus. Rather than concentrating on the money, we're concentrating on who those new partners, who those new shareholders might be. And that doesn't sound like a big difference, but it does actually take the company in quite a bit different direction. And we've been having some interesting discussions along those lines. Nothing has been concluded yet, but we're excited about the direction where that might go. Additionally, we're looking at applying some new technology. There's a few bugs out here today, but that's okay. We're looking at exploiting some new technology on some of our assets. We have recently rethought some of the geologic setting under some new evidence. So that's pretty interesting to us as well. We're very excited about that. And what we will do is just give you a brief overview of those on 3 assets, and then we will follow this video up with individual videos on each of those assets. So at our Ainsworth high-grade silver property, as the technical team was finishing off the assessment report to credit last year's exploration activities, we became more and more intrigued with the depth potential of this historic silver district. And in the course of our work, we had examined many old assessment reports of work over the decades in the Ainsworth camp. But what we hadn't yet done is look at some of the academic literature. And so we did a deep search into that And lo and behold, there is a lot of academic work in the district. The next video we do will be following up what we found, or what jumped out at us at least, from a review of that literature. But to quickly summarize here, it has very much validated the deep potential of the Ainsworth camp, and we think in a way that could attract larger mining company interest. We have been approaching the district to date with a direct shipping view, and while we very much like that business model, it's not the business model of bigger mining companies, but untested, deep potential in verifiable districts that host these things, that is. So that's pretty exciting. At Kettle Valley, we have not a historic camp, but a newly recognized mineralization style, never before recognized in this particular area. And so we worked that up in the conventional ways: prospecting, mapping, sampling, geochemical sampling, and a first round of drilling. What we uncovered there was very interesting, good grade silver and gold values sampled in outcrop on surface. When we drill tested that, we got terrific looking core that was very exciting to us. Sadly, those intercepts did not contain any precious metals values. And so in an attempt to explain that, we've taken a step back, looked at the structural complexity of the camp, and we'll talk more about that on a follow-up video. The interesting thing about our Kettle Valley asset is that it is permitted for additional drilling, so subject to driller availability and financing, we could have drills turning on that property in very short order. Now finally, Panorama Ridge, and we talked about this earlier this year in a video where we made the point that when the project was last drilled in 2008, the gold price was around 600 US, and today at 3,300 and change, it could be a different scenario. This is our most advanced project in terms of money spent, in terms of number of drill holes, and in terms of cumulative drill footage. We have been in discussion with a number of service providers, metallurgical people, all of whom are advancing non-cyanide precious metals lixiviants for gold and silver recovery. And so we're very excited about the potential of trying this new technology on this asset to see if we can't unlock some value there and maybe expand what we've already done and build that asset up in a slightly non-conventional way. So, a lot going on behind the scenes. We hope to have a number of news releases before we get into full-blown summer. And we will, as I said, have follow-up videos on each of those 3 assets. So please stay tuned.